Today, you are the monster in Village Attacks. Because here you are actually portraying as a well-known monster, living in your castle, minding your own business, and all of a sudden, well, the villagers are coming, trying to smack you and kill you, destroy your castle and get you out of here. I mean, you can understand them, right? You are a monster after all. But in this video, I am going to take a look at this game and give you an overview of this game and show you what it's all about. So let's just take a look at this. So in this game, you portray as one of 5 vicious, well-known monsters. And you are protecting your castle from the evil heroes and villagers and hunters trying to break in and destroy what you have built up. Those people are just so mean, right? Well, in this game, you played through some phases. 3 phases to be more exact. First, the good ones, the monsters, meaning you, start. Then the villagers will do their actions. And in the end, you have a little cleanup phase. But at the start of the game, before we start to play, we need to choose a scenario that we would like to play. We need to sort out all the pieces on the table. And then we need to set up the scenario, meaning these little tiles here, according to whatever the scenario says. Now, once the setup is completed, it should look something like this. We have spawn tiles, but we also have the main room tiles with the doors facing each other. If there is any other special tiles, well, you should put them out as well, according to whatever the scenario says. So this here could be your future monster. This here will be your monster dashboard. Now, in the top here, we can see the name of your monster. Next to that, we can see which type this monster is. Because every monster will be one of the 5 monster types in the game. In this case here, this is a demon. The next one here we have is how much health your character has. Meaning how much damage the monster can take before it's being killed. Now over here we have the amount of experience that is needed to level up this character and gain a new ability or improve the current ones. Underneath that we have defense and retaliation. On these bases here, this is where we will put the die once we get any of the results matching. For example, defense. Meaning that if you roll a defense die, well, you can put it on the defense spot and use it later. Beneath the defense, we have the reserve. Now here we can store any die results that we want to use in later rounds. Beneath this, we have movement. Now here we can actually store any die result and use as movement in future turns. But we cannot store the villager symbol. Besides that, we can store any of the available results on movement. And in later turns, we can discard this die to move. Here we have the range of this monster's ability. If there is no range, well, it probably means that it has a range of 0 or is irrelevant for the ability. And here we have the ability, but also the description of the ability. If there is any cost to be able to use this ability, it would be stated here to the far right. If the ability had this symbol here, an eye crossed out, it means that you do not need to have line of sight to be able to use this ability. And lastly, far over here we have a role. In this game there are 3 different roles that can be used. So you got your little board here, right? Quite cool. And on the backside you actually have some information about your cute little monster that you have chosen. Now, I told you that you have a monster ability on the board from the start of the game. But you can actually use your experience to upgrade these abilities. Meaning that you get new tiles. Now, these tiles also have basic but more advanced abilities. But you also need to unlock them as the game goes along. Once you do unlock any of these abilities, well, you simply place them over whatever ability you had before. Once you know which monster you will portray as, you also need to take the corresponding miniature because these are the ones that you will use out on the board itself to go and protect your castle. Besides the beautiful and heroic monsters of the game, we also have the evil villagers. Now, the villagers are split into 3 different groups. We have the peasants. These are the lowest rank. They have 1 health, they have 1 attack action, they can only move 1 zone at a time, and they have 0 range. Now, the hunters have the same stats as the peasants, except for their range, because their range is 1, meaning that now they can actually attack 1 room away from the room they're standing in. And then we have the evil heroes. The heroes, they have their own attack cards, and you can see their stats on their hero tokens. In your castle, you have a room called the castle heart. This is the room that really is, well, the heart of the castle. Whenever a monster is in this room, they can use a magic die result to heal themselves. And this is also the room that the villagers are trying to get to and attack. Because once they move in here and they attack, well, they will lower the value of your castle's HP. Once they have completely lowered your castle's heart value, well, you have lost the game. So this room must be protected by all cost. Now, we also have the game overview tile, which is this board here. Here we can see the HP of our castle, meaning that every time the damn villagers attack the castle's heart room, well, we would need to lower this value. And here we can see the village morale. Now, here you keep the track of the current level of the morale in the village. Now, when you slay villagers and complete objectives, this will be lowered. When you have lowered it to 0, you win the game. And down here we have the village event decks. Now, these should be shuffled at the start of the game, of course, and placed on this space. Now, every time the village event dial reaches certain points on this track, we will draw an event card and resolve whatever it says. At the bottom we have 3 spaces. Here we should place 3 face-up trap cards during setup of the game. Now, these cards can be used in the gameplay to protect your castle. As I said at the start of the video, this game plays out during 3 different phases. The first phase is where the players, meaning the cool, awesome monsters, will do their actions. When it is a player's turn, they need to roll these die. And depending on what results they get, well, they can do different things during their turn. Once they have done whatever they want to or can do, the turn would go on to the player on their left. Then they would roll the die, do their actions, and so on, until all monsters have activated. And then we would move on to phase number 2. This is where the villagers would activate. But first, let's take a look at these die to see what you can actually do. So in this game we have 6 different die results. The first one here is the melee attack. This one will let you deal 1 damage to a villager in the same zone as you. The second one is ranged attack. It will let you deal 1 damage to an enemy in an adjacent zone. And then we have the magic result. This one is used for spells but also healings. This one here is defense, and it will block up to 2 points of damage from a single attack. Retaliate will deal equal damage to an enemy that successfully attacks you. The last one here is the villager result, and this one will advance a villager 1 zone further into the castle, heading to the heart zone of the castle. So depending on which results you get, well, you will be able to do different things out on the board. Melee attacks, range attacks, blocking yourself, healing yourself, moving, and so on. Just remember that you can actually save these dice to future rounds on your player board. Maybe you want some defense because you're in the same room as a villager and you need to protect yourself. Or you simply want something in your reserve because you don't really know what's gonna happen. Or you want to move in future turns as well, remember, because then you would need to have them on movement and discard them to be able to move that amount of steps. Just talk to your fellow players around the table when you use the die, because remember, when you have them in your reserve, well, you will actually lower the amount of die for your fellow players in their turns. So keep a good communication. Also, if you should get the same result 3 times, meaning the same die result when you have rolled, you can actually re-roll those die to get a different result. If you want to, you might want those die and you want to keep them. Well, then it's up to you. The second phase of this game is where the villagers will activate. And here we need to go through some steps. The first step is to rotate the village event dial the same amount of steps as there are monsters in play. Now, in this game here we are 3 players, meaning 3 monsters. So we would move the dial 3 steps. If we hit the numbers that are stated in the scenario, well, then we would draw an event card and do whatever that event card says. And the next step would be that villagers attack any monsters that they have range to, meaning that if they can reach a monster, well, they will attack that monster. And once they have attacked, they will move towards the heart room in the castle. Because remember, this is their target, this is what they want to attack. Because once they have destroyed your castle to 0, they win the game. You are simply just an obstruction in their way. If there are any traps out in the castle that would activate, well, they would activate now, hopefully stopping the villagers or at least pushing them back a bit. The last step would be to spawn new villagers out on the board, because they just don't stop, they just keep on coming. And that's pretty much the villagers' turn. It goes quite fast, it's not too hard to manage. If you want to help each other to manage the different movements, attacks and so on, well, do that. If you just want one player controlling it every time, well, you do that. It's completely up to you, as long as you follow these steps. Now, if you manage to lower the village morale to 0, you would win now. If the villagers manage to damage the heart room so badly, so your castle's heart is 0, well, the villagers would win. If not, we will simply keep on playing until, well, either thing happens in the future. But when we have activated the villagers and we haven't lost or won, we go into phase number 3. And this is really just a quick little cleanup phase. If there are any expired tokens or cards out on the boards, well, those will be removed now. We will also put out new trap cards if we are able to. And then we need to pass the first player token to the player on the left, so the right monsters will activate during the next round. Just remember to follow the scenarios, because what I have shown you here is really just the basics. In the scenarios there will be a lot more. There's a lot more tokens used, there's a lot more missions and objectives for you to complete, there's a lot more things for you to do. I mean, lowering the village morale, that's just one objective. In here there are so much more in future games. Plus, as I said, this is the basic. There are so much more that you are gonna build up once you play this game. And I quite like this game. I mean, this is a defense game where you go in with your friends trying to block out heroes. I also love that fact that the monsters are the good guys here. We're trying to just keep them out and they're coming to our castle and we try to slap them out, which is just brilliant. I quite like this game. I think it's really fun. Some of the scenarios are not that long either. Some of them just takes half an hour, 15 minutes. Some of them are, of course, longer. But I love the fact that you have a game like this that doesn't take hours and hours to set up and play. That, my friend, was Village Attacks. I think this game is just a lot of fun. I mean, you have some strategy in here. You have ways to keep them out. But really, this game is just about fun. You sit down, you try to slay heroes, you try to put up traps, you try to use your abilities to kill those villagers. This is grim, this is dark, this is quite cool. I enjoyed it a lot. I had a fun time with this one. And as I told you, there is an expansion on the way, which is Grim Dynasty Reborn. I will make a video on this one as well, so if you've seen this and you think that the game seems interesting, well, check out that video as well. And if you want to know more about both games, well, check out the links down in the description and it will take you straight to it. If you liked the video, give me a thumbs up, throw in a comment, subscribe to the channel, but most importantly, my friend, please remember to keep on spreading that board gaming love I know you all have. Peace out.